Boom. We're back. Another episode of Coach's Corner. I got a very special guest for you guys today. There's a lot of people coming into the industry right now, and a lot of people, like my guest today, literally had no experience starting out within transportation. And that's the beauty of this industry is there's such an opportunity for everybody out there. But before I introduce I'll introduce him right now. His name's Andy Hendry. I got to bring in my sponsors. They're the reason why I can keep these lights on and do this every single week. My sponsors over at Bid Freighter. They're the preferred EDI partner here at the Freight Coach. They're on a mission to connect the logistics industry with a flat fee for unlimited EDI messaging. Carriers and owner-operators alike, Andy, this might be something for you guys to look into here as well. You're costing yourself business by not having a digital option to accept tenders from your customers. With the Load Accept platform, EDI is no longer an expensive and unattainable option for companies who may not have a legacy TMS to utilize for your day-to-day operations. Load Accept levels the playing field for your organization and makes you EDI compliant with your customers through automation. If your customers are requiring EDI capabilities, you now have a seamless and effective tool to utilize in Load Accept. If you're ready to learn more, visit www.bitfreighter.com to request a Load Accept demo today. Just do me a favor, let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Andy, let's start talking, man. You're the owner of A1 Transport LLC.
Yes, sir.
You have been in the game here for how long?
I've been in the game for about 8 months.
8 months. I love it. So let's start out. How did this all become a thing? Because, when we were talking before, you didn't have any industry experience or really any connection. So like what brought you into trucking?
Yeah. So a mutual contact, a good friend of mine, opened up the MC. He got the authority started, realized real quick within 2 months that this is not an industry that you jump into without a lot of working capital. And he thought he was going to be able to bootstrap it, and it didn't turn out that way. Like, oh, the trucks are going to make the money. It's going to start pulling in because all these YouTube videos show that, right?
Yeah.
And so it didn't happen that way. And, I noticed real quick after I ran the finances by and everything that, hey, this is a business that you got to have 6 months of expenses. At least I like to have 12 months. So
Yeah.
that, you've got that cushion. So he didn't. So he came to me and he said, hey, I've got this. I'm in a bind. Do you want to help me out somehow? So I took over all the debt. I got into half the company and basically backed the company if it went into the negative. And then, that worked out for so long. And he finally kind of figured out he didn't really want to be in this space.
Yeah.
So he, we made an agreement and he got removed. It wasn't a kick out or anything. It was a mutual agreement. So now I'm 100% owner of the company. And there's a lot of huge benefits of being in this industry. I mean, yeah. I'll let you segue. I mean, that was,
yeah. No, definitely. There is a ton of opportunity here, but like also you coming in now, because like, I mean, I know this, but like you own multiple businesses. Do you think that helped you prepare more for the realities of what you would be faced with? Because like you brought up, not a lot of people think like I need 6 to 12 months of cash reserves to ensure that I can cover my truck payment, my trailer payment, my insurance, everything else, because, there is a ton of working capital that you need to operate any business, let alone a trucking company. So do you think that played a lot into it?
That played a huge part into it. There was two things that really helped me out. Was one, I have multiple businesses, so I understand the business part of the atmosphere. I didn't understand trucking. Okay. Yeah. But I knew that if it was like anything else that I've went into, I figured it out eventually. Now I looked at the downside. What's this going to cost me if it doesn't work? So I knew going in that, hey, if I lost $30,000 to $50,000 and on this business venture, I mean, that's the cost of going into business.
Yeah.
You got to be able to stomach that going in. Yeah. So, but the pros outweighed the cons. But I did come in. There's another thing too, is I came in worried about more of the driver still having a salary, making sure he's making money, no matter if my truck's broke down and it's not working. I got to make sure I have that reserve too, because you're taking on the responsibility of another family, especially because I'm not the owner operator, driving the truck. It's a little bit different having a W-2 driver out there. So
yeah. No, definitely. And like that, it's interesting that that's the perspective that you take, because there's, like, let's be honest, there's some people out there who start companies who don't think about that at all, and ensuring that the drivers still got paid no matter what. Like, 'cause, yeah, downtime, everything else, like that's a very real thing that's out there. And if, especially, it's like, I think, like, that's why so many people, I mean, I want to say, like, I try not to use blanket statements, Andy, because I'm held accountable for it, because everything I say is recorded now. It can be
It's
used
out there.
against me. You know, I want to say it's as high as like 80% failure rate in year one of trucking companies. I want to say it's like that. I think,
Yeah.
my friend Adam Wingfield with Innovative Logistics Solutions, he's like one of the best at, if not the best, I think he's the best in the space of training individuals to do this the right way and starting a trucking company to make sure that they are on a path to profitability. But I want to say he had some stats out there, like it was like some 80 or 85% failure rate in there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with, like, working capital for one. They don't have the money to even, put fuel in their trucks, and then let alone make sure that that driver gets paid, because it's like, talk
Yeah.
about the fastest way to lose employees in any industry. Don't pay them 1 week and see how long they show up.
Exactly. No, that's 100%. Like the big things that you were talking about right there is, I see two people that get in and they're that, I heard the statistics 87%
Okay.
first year in the trucking business. And two of them is, one goes to YouTube and sees all these people making money, making
Yeah.
7,000 a week, blah, 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 blah. And the second thing is a driver, and this is where I kind of related to why I wanted to be different. But a driver is working for a company and
Mhm.
he's just a number, and he knows that. They don't care about him. He's wanting to build up his capital so that he can get out and be an owner operator and
Yeah.
make more money and be his own boss. Now, I feel for those because I understand that. I've been there. Okay. I want to get out from underneath the man and have my own thing. But the problem is, the majority of the time is they they don't know the business side of it. They
Yeah.
understand trucking, but they don't understand the business side, and that's where sometimes they get into failure because they're not watching every single thing that they can cut cost on, where
Yeah.
they can cut it down so they're not having so much go out the door. Yeah, you made 8 grand this week gross, but you only took home 1,000. Like that's
Yeah.
not that great. But some are like, well, $1,000 is fine with me. But a business, you're not going to sustain when you take a $10,000 bill to a
Yeah.
mechanic.
No, I mean, that's exactly it, is, and I see that right now. And what's, like, obviously I'm out on social media a lot. That's literally how I operate my entire business and everything else. But I see a lot of concerning posts by people that they are like, oh, my truck needs 14 grand a week. And hey, I'm a responsible capitalist at heart. I'm all about everybody making money.
Yeah.
But if you don't know your operating costs, it doesn't matter if you're going to make $30,000 in a week with that truck. If you don't know how to properly allocate those funds to ensure that, you have a $15,000 cash reserve to fix an engine rebuild, or a transmission replacement, or you need all brand new tires or something like that, it doesn't matter how much money you're making,
Yeah.
So it's like, when you're talking about knowing your costs, what is your, like, for you and your company, what's your break even point on that, like on a rate per mile basis?
So my rate per mile right now, break even's about $1.75, $1.80.
$7. Okay, perfect. And that is just dependent
That's
upon.
covering taxes. That's covering
Yeah,
everything.
no,
So,
definitely.
so
And
that
then,
was one thing too. Is I got into
yeah,
business, I saw that number, where we're at, and it come out to be pretty true. It fluctuates a little bit, but and you're getting $4 a mile out there. Like, I know that everybody's like, well, it's not always going to be this good, and I understand that it's
yeah,
not. Just like real estate, it's not always going to be as good as it is right now.
yeah.
But I know that I can still operate a business, and so while it's going good, get to the 10, 20 trucks, and then when the rates come down to 250, I'm still making money.
No, definitely. And that's what is so important, is it's like, what, you can take on freight that, I understand not every load out there is going to pay $4 or $5 a mile. I would love for everybody just to make all that money, but it's not feasible in the long term. Because like, let's be honest, we all go into a grocery store right now and we see what prices are. Inflation happens when price goes up, for anybody out there, but it's one of those things that like you're talking about, like that's the importance of knowing your costs, because it's like, hey, you know what? My driver got say $6 a mile to go in on their head haul, but you need to get the driver back into that same hot market. You can take a load for $1.85 a mile. Instead, like, yeah, your profit margin is slim, but at least you're breaking even on that, because again, not every shipment you take is going to be a 70% profit margin baked into that, and then knowing that, though, that's going to help you make better business decisions on getting that consistent freight. Because again, I know that, like, yeah, if you're chasing $4 or $5 a mile, how many days are you going to have to sit to get that load? And then it's like what you're losing out on every single day by not, because again, I don't know of any truck that can make money sitting idle. I don't know any truck out there that can. And that's the importance of knowing your costs, knowing your break even point. So it's like, yeah, if you got to take a load for $1.85 a mile, at least you're breaking even, at least your costs are covered and everything else. We all face that as business owners at some point in time.
Yep. No, that's 100% true. I mean, that's where you can get into, it's all about the automation part of it. Like, you got to have the systems and the tools to use, but then you got to figure out parts of that you can automate. And yes, the biggest thing that everybody knows of automation in the trucking industry is having direct lanes.
Yes.
So you're not dispatching every single day this truck to get them from here to here. And then you're not getting $4 a mile because you're not on the live load boards, but heck, I'm getting $3.10 and it's consistent. I don't have to work. I don't have to feel full with it. I don't have to pay a dispatch. I don't have to pay nobody for that thing to just keep moving at $3.10 a mile, not worry.
Yeah. Before we dive into that piece, though, I want to talk about what, like when you're talking about automating. And, when we were talking the other day with our friend Josh Hempstead, who's in the comments out there. What's up, Josh? Again, anybody who has questions out there, drop them in the comments. We'll answer them as they come through and everything else throughout the show. But you're talking about the everybody having a handout when you're starting out your company, So before we kind of dive into the, developing a niche region and stuff to operate off of, talk about that, because it's like when you're talking about hiring a dispatcher or a dispatch service, something like that's a percentage that's gone on every single shipment. And again, back to the importance of knowing your costs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love dispatchers.
Yeah.
I love the service that they provide because, they worry about where that truck's going, where is it coming out of, because it's attached to what they're getting paid. And so they're watching, how much can I get rate per mile for this truck? They're looking at that stuff for you. And, sometimes, people, I see them, I hate dispatchers or I hate brokers, all this stuff that's out there, but there's a service, there's a need for everybody. I believe, just like you were saying about the capitalism, part of the industry, but it's up to you to figure out the right dispatcher, and is 10% worth it versus 7% with the other guy.
Yeah.
How much more are they getting you bottom line? Because that's all that matters at the end of the day. I do this, I tell people this all the time, and it's like the same thing with car sales. You go to a car lot, they're going to play with your numbers, right? Like what you're trading in, we're going to give you this, what you're paying for ours. They'll come down $1,000 off of theirs, but they're not going to give you crap off of yours. They're playing with the numbers all the time. It's the same thing you're doing with the dispatching side. Is I'm paying 10%, but this guy is giving me $7,000 a week on 2,000 miles. Versus I'm paying 7% for this guy that I'm running 2,000 miles, getting 5,500 a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's the bottom line at the end of the day. Which one's the best?
So what would you recommend for somebody out there who might be looking for a dispatch service? Kind of to dive in a little bit deeper on that. Are there any like telltale signs up front that these individuals actually know what they're talking about? I have an opinion on dispatch services, but I want to hear more like that. That's not the topic at hand today.
Yeah.
What could you recommend to anybody out there when they're looking for a dispatch service on kind of how to, siphon through all the bullshit, because just like with, I understand there's a lot of brokers out there who don't know what they're doing. I understand the complaints that drivers and shippers have with brokerage services. And I know that there's a growing thing with dispatch services as well. So with you coming in with the fresh perspective, and that's why I always obviously wanted to talk to you today, is because you have a fresh perspective. You don't have 10 years of a mindset of, oh, this is why this thing sucks, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, how can somebody siphon through the BS and find the right dispatch service? You know, what have you learned so far?
So I don't know if I'd be like super useful on everything with what you were just asking there as a question, because we've kept it in house,
Yeah.
because we're small growing, and so I haven't got to the point yet where it's like, okay, I've got 3 trucks, hand it over to somebody else, or just hire somebody sitting here in the office. So but it doesn't matter if I haven't been down the road. Like, there's still telltale signs that, one, I would be worried about the integrity.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna know pretty quick. I'm a good judge of character. It's somebody's integrity of what they're out for. Are they out for just to make money and they don't care where they're putting me, or are they out to help me get the best bang for my mileage that I'm putting on
Yeah.
my truck and where I'm going and when I'm home? And it's all about the questions they're asking you. They should be asking you questions. Where do you want to go to? When do you want to be home? What's the hours? If they're not asking that first, and they're leading with how much they can just get you, or
Yeah.
worrying about dollars, they're going to be more excited for just running the truck, and they don't care where it goes.
Yeah.
And the other thing is just, I mean, heck, nowadays, most dispatchers are marketing on social media. Go check out their page, see how many people they've got following them.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a telltale sign too. I mean, the best dispatchers out there are going to have a line out the door, and they're going to be handing off trucks they can't even, put on their platform because they have too many coming to them because they're doing
Yeah.
so good of a service.
No, definitely.
So,
Do you work with the same dispatchers right now, like dispatch services, or are you like, because or you guys have it in house?
it's in house. Yeah.
It's in house. Okay, so you guys aren't out there with a third party dispatch company at
Yep.
all at that
Yep.
point. Okay, yeah, because that's
We
like,
have friends in the industry, but we're not in it. No.
yeah, for sure, and that's what you see a lot of out there in, the third party dispatch companies. Again, we're not here to go down that rabbit hole. That might be a topic of conversation for another show, though. So Josh has a question. Would you ask a dispatcher to put a game plan together for your trucks before hiring them?
I think that's a great idea. They come in with a business plan for how they can help you. I mean, that's a telltale sign. They come to you with that, like, they've put thought into how they're going to help you instead of just sign you up, hurry over, send over the agreement, and let's get rolling. Like, that's a great idea.
No, I think like that's key in developing any business. I just put some stuff out there today about a niche. I'm all about the niche. I don't feel that there is a need to be a jack of all trades in freight, because there's so much more business that's out there than a lot of people realize. Everybody wants the big flashy lights of the large enterprise, shippers and everything else. I get it, but like, man, there's some serious niches where you can make a ton more money in just doing one style of freight, whether that's just dry van Southeast, or, Midwest reefer, or West Coast, flatbed, or however that looks. I think like there's a power in that, and knowing, because otherwise it's like you get caught if you're in a rate per mile game only. And again, I'm not here to knock anybody's hustle. If you're out there chasing the highest paying load, more power to you. But if you get $10 a mile from Florida to Montana, for example, but you got a deadhead 1,800 miles to find a load that pays $1 a mile to get you back home, per se. Again, this is all hypotheticals. That's not what the rates are. Don't hold me to that. But to me, that is a terrible business decision, and again, it's like knowing the lanes that you want to run. And I think like that would be my biggest piece of advice to anybody, whether you're starting out in brokerage or as a trucking company, is know what area you want to run in first. Don't crisscross the country trying to find the highest paying loads ever, because again, back to the whole, what if you got to sit 3 or 4 days because you're holding out for the highest rate per mile?
Yeah.
You're not making money at that time,
Yeah, and you got to watch too, not just areas you go into, but where you're going, what shippers and receivers that you're going to, because sometimes you go to this place that has horrible reviews. Like, we were looking at one today, that it scares you because the brokerage company has a good name. Okay, so they're
Yep.
reputable, but the shipper or the receiver has a horrible name for trucks getting backed up. And we're in that pandemic part of the world right now where everybody is short staffed. So
Yep.
I understand that. But me as a business owner, I don't want to take a truck to somewhere that sits for 6 hours that I miss my next load. And they're like, well, we'll give you detention pay. It's like, well, $150, whatever they give you is not worth missing out on a $1,500 load.
Yeah.
And you got to sit there for a night and wait for the next day.
Yeah.
That's the things that a lot of people, it's trial and error. I mean, that's what we've been in with that.
Yeah.
But you can Google. I mean, there's a lot of Google reviews. Like Google where you're going, Google where it's saying you're going to go, and check that out. Know before you're going in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the worst kept secret in the industry right there, Andy, is that of those facilities that are out there. And it's, again, but like you're saying, it's trial and error, man. That's a learning experience. You need to go through this. I mean, you're not just going to find the most reputable, like, unfortunately, there's a lot of bad actors, and you're not going to find the most reputable brokers with the best shippers, the best receivers who get you in and out of there in an hour. I wish everything worked that way, but it doesn't. That's not reality. And again, It is, like, doing your research, though, do your due diligence. If I were out there, starting a trucking company right now, if brokers can't answer basic questions about actual appointment times and everything else, if any broker is telling you as a carrier that it's a first come, first serve facility, me personally, with the experience I have now, I would always call and double check that, no matter what. Like, unless, you can Google it and it's all over there. Yeah. First come, first serve, first come, first serve. But I would always take it a step further and double check. It's not that I don't trust everybody as a business owner myself. And then if I owned a truck, same thing. Is it really, it takes you 5 seconds to do that, to verify that information, because again, $150 means nothing if you're losing out on a $2,000 reload, especially the after effects of that too. Now that missed load leads you to miss out on other freight. It's the after effect costs of that are, what is, I think, one of the bigger issues that kind of comes from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, you as the dispatch, like, I'll just say us dispatching our own trucks. It's like, we want to get a couple days out. We don't want to be every morning trying to find it, hurrying up. Like, we want to give some cushion, get them a day or two out, knowing, hey, we're going to string these loads together. And so if you do that and you miss one, it screws the whole week, because it's like, well, I was going to go from point A to point B back up to here. And then you throw a wrench in the system, and now you're calling brokers, and most of the time, we've only had it happen a couple, like 2 times, that things like that. And they're usually understanding, but there's some out there that aren't, and they're going to put a ding on you, or, you're not going to be able to use them again, but it's out of your control.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit, man. That's another thing that I think would be very useful to people coming into the industry. Talk about a scenario where you've worked with a broker. You don't have to mention any names. I prefer that you don't, because I don't want to get sued again.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, but talk about that scenario that you're bringing up right there, where they're going to ding you and everything else.
Yeah. So this has been months back, but we had that situation happen, and we tried to explain it to them. They're like, well, you've already confirmed the rate con, you're on the hook for this. We could fine you, now we've got to find another load. And we're talking like a 24-hour heads up. Like, it wasn't like 2 hours out.
Yeah.
And this, it got very comical, but this one broker agent for the brokerage was like, well, I'm putting you on the list. Like, you're not going to be able to carry with us. And we're like, what? Because of this? And then he came back and he was like, well, I'll never work with you again. You can come to our brokerage, but I'll never work with you again. And it's like,
and this was because you fell off a load 24 hours in advance.
But it wasn't our fault. I mean, it's because another one fell behind.
Yeah. You got delayed on another shipment. They weren't offloading you. You called the broker 24 hours in advance to let them know that you were falling off due to a delay on a previous load. And that's the reaction you got.
Yeah.
I
think
want to,
his senses came to him really quick when he made the response of, "Well, I won't work with you," because he's like,
yeah,
if I take this up the chain, they're going to be like,
yeah, 24
"No,
hour.
we're not going
That,
to put a ding on them."
here's the thing, Andy. That's the least I can ask for in my carrier partners is a 24-hour heads up. That's plenty of time to recover a load, you know? And it's like, I like, because my radar of, is this really a fall off or do they find a better paying load,
Yeah,
is like you mentioned, it's that 2 hour mark. If they're falling off 2 hours prior, again, I understand things happen. So I'm trying not to use a blanket statement here, but if you've had communication with the carrier, everything's good, everything's good. Oh, hey, now this popped up last minute, and your BS meter starts to kind of go off. But I
yeah,
mean, if it's 24 hours in advance, man, go for it. Yeah, that's fine. And like here's another thing. I've never in my entire career wrote a freight card report against a carrier ever. I don't see the need in doing that. I
yeah.
I honestly don't. Even when, I mean, dude, I've had truckloads stolen. I've had a lot of shady shit happen in my career. I've never once felt the need to say anything or put a freight card report out there because again, it's just like it is what it is. Like that's part of the industry. Shit's gonna happen. Um, but that scenario right there, unfortunately, a lot of and I would attribute it to this. My gut tells me it's because you have newer authority and they are just like, this person's out there, looking for a better paying load or something like that. That was probably their gut instinct on it. But
Yeah.
again, they probably realized that, no, maybe I am just a dumbass at that point. But again, like a lot of brokers do that to carriers, you know,
Totally.
where they fall off 24 hours, 48 hours in advance or anything like that. And then same situation where because here's another thing, man. This is why I want people to double check the first come, first serve appointment times and everything out there. Because yeah, there are a lot of facilities that are, but there's a lot of facilities that aren't. And brokers say that because, we failed on the load the day prior. We missed the appointment time and they said you're a work in. So they'll just put first come, first serve out there to try and cover their ass. And most drivers out there are like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
But that's just what people do. I think that again, it's like, and then if you show up and then you guys are like waiting for 5 or 6 hours and then you leave, they'll put a freight card report out against you because you arrived, you accepted the load, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, no, broker, you failed in that instance. And then you're trying to take that out on a driver who doesn't want to sit there for 6 hours because you fucked up the day before.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's just part of, I mean, that's the part of what we were talking about on the beginning of this is like, I understood business. I didn't understand trucking. And these are the things that, I'm just figuring out as we go. But I love it. At the end of the day, I love it. Because, we built this company. Like I said, I came in with the thought process of the driver, and that's how I go into anything. If I look at whoever you're servicing is getting a very good deal on whatever it is, if it's an environment, experience, culture, or a monetary value, good deal, then you're on to something. And that's what I looked at going into this was we want to make sure that we give a great environment for the drivers.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting treated great at every place out there.
Correct.
And that's what I knew would, everybody talks about just pay them more, pay them more, pay them more. Well, to retain drivers and them not leave you. And we pay right there in the middle of the road with everybody else. We're not way over and we're not way under, but we have the drivers that are, they're thanking us all the time because we talk about, hey, how's your family? How's this? When do you want to be home? Hey, when's your next vacation day you want to take? Doctor's appointments, kids, all that stuff. And I understand that you're going to lose that the bigger you get, but you don't want to lose the thought of still that is your core of treating.
I don't think you'll lose that the bigger you get. I think it gets lost because people choose to let it go to the wayside. I think that if you're truly out there respecting drivers and treating them as a human being, because that's what I'm hearing you say right now, Andy, is it's like, hey, we treat our drivers as a human being. They want to take time off. They want doctor's appointments. There's a lot of chop shops out there, man, that they'll just like push. They don't care, And again, I don't think that has to go away ever, and that's what is going to retain. That's why, it's like you hear some people out there talking, oh, driver shortage. And I'm not saying that we don't need more drivers, but it's like there's a lot of companies that I know that I converse with. They have no problem seating their trucks at all. They actually have a waiting list of drivers. How many carriers out there can say, I have a waiting list of drivers looking to come drive for me, and they don't have this problems, and again, it's like, it's all about, it starts with the culture of it. It starts with, and again, I understand that there's some drivers out there that aren't the best, like everybody's equally guilty in that equation. But I think if you have a driver first mentality as a trucking company, which you should, like, how do we ensure that our drivers are taken care of? How do we ensure that we are positioning them in the locations that they need to be in, for an event? Because like, yeah, they're out there on the road all the time. Again, I'm the son of a truck driver. My dad drove for almost 40 years. Yeah. He missed out on a lot of events growing up. So it's like, if you can work with your drivers to make sure that they're there for doctor's appointments, or they're there for their kids or anything like that, as the owner of a trucking company, I think like that's what will separate you, because not everybody thinks that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a big one. And like what I was going to say with the monetary side of it, people think, well, we'll just throw more money and that'll fix the problem.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have the culture. They have a horrible culture, and they think that just paying more money is going to fix the problem. I've noticed everywhere in my life and other people's lives by watching them that going from $75,000 a year to $100,000 a year don't take very long to like get acclimated at that level of income. And then the same problems are still there. Yep. I'm pissed off at my work environment. Doesn't matter. I'm making 100,000 now. And then, so that doesn't fix the problem. I really believe that if you're focusing on them. And the other thing too, as a business owner, like I managed people for almost 12 years. And I'm like, if my guy calls me on Friday and says, hey, I need to take off Monday. And, let's say you have vacation time for him and he's out of vacation time. Okay. So your driver calls, he wants to be off Monday. I have a choice to say no and be a hard ass. This is your job. No to it. Now, if it's a problem that you have all the time, it's different.
Yeah.
But some people would do that because they're like, well, I'm the boss. They get that. Well, I'm the boss mentality. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you piss him off, he's not going to be as good for you, and he's going to be looking for another job. And when he leaves you without a notice, that truck's going to be sitting there for weeks.
Yeah.
Before you get another guy in it. So what's that one day going to cost you for it to sit down and him actually go and do what he has to take care of?
Yeah. I agree with that, man. I agree. Marisol Sandoval, thank you so much for joining us. She's out in the comments today. She's got 15 years experience as a freight forwarder. She's in brokerage now. She has a family-owned company, wants you to look her up, FMI. Drop your MC out there, Marisol, in the comments, and that'll help Andy kind of track you down a little bit. But no, man, I'm right there with you. I think that, like, my mentality on PTO, I think PTO is a thing of the past. I think that most companies that offer an open PTO, like, hey, we're not going to hold you accountable, because again, like, man, I'm a father, if my kid gets sick, I'm taking care of my kid. I would never ask anybody to choose between work or your child. I think that's fucking a dictator at that point. You're not a leader. Again, there are telltale signs. Like, is this person taking advantage of it? Is it every Friday or Monday they happen to be calling? There's some telltale signs to it. But I've found, and I know a lot of people who work for companies that they have open PTO. You want to take time off, they want you to take a time off. But again, you're not openly looking to take time off when you have it as an option to kind of do, like, it's really weird. I think that there's more benefits to having an open PTO than anything. And especially if they're giving you a heads up, it's like, hey, Monday, Tuesday next week, I'm not going to be available. I'd like to take the day off, take the day off. That, like, again, with my company, as I grow, dude, I'm not going to like, it's open PTO. You want to work from home, because like, obviously with my stuff, I don't need them here. My only thing is if I say I need something done by Tuesday at noon, I want it there Tuesday at noon. I don't care if you're doing it from wherever, as long as the work's getting done. That's my mentality with a lot of stuff. Because I feel like if you're hiring the right people, they're going to want to work. They're not going to want to take every day of the week off. Like, it's just, but I think it's like, it's that empowerment thing to me, Andy, where it's like, you're giving them the choice. Exactly. Because, like, my whole thing is this, man, is like, if I'm as good of a boss or I don't even like to use the word the boss. If I'm as good of a leader that's out there, man, they're going to want to work. You know, they're going to want to be around because you're building a culture that people want to be a part of.
Yep. No, that's 100% because it changes the mindset.
Mhm.
So if you give somebody 4 weeks off a year of vacation in, your written documents, hey, you've been here 3 years, you got 4 weeks off. When they take off, they don't come back to work like super grateful. Like, I'm not saying they're not grateful.
Yeah,
But they don't have that mindset. I'm coming back to work. They're like kind of dreading it, But when they have it open freely, it's like, hey, he just gave me the day off. And they come back like thankful that there's no agreement that says that's my time. So they come back and go, well, I took my time off. You can't say crap about it. I took a whole week off last week. It's my time. They look at it like that. But when it's an open PTO, like you're talking about, that's how we structure. We have an open PTO. You let me know, give me at least, if it's a full week, give me a month's heads up.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I've never had a problem. When holidays come up, like not big holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, but when holidays come up, smaller ones, like I'll ask them, hey, you want to take up? No, man, I want to run. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I give them the power. Like, and they love it.
You're empowering the driver to make their decision, and I think like that's huge. And that's what makes trucking companies successful. Like in the culture side of things, like obviously you got to know what it costs to run your truck and stuff like that. But on the culture side of things, it's like you want to keep drivers happy, right? Like they're your direct representation at your customers, and it's like, I understand that not everybody's going to be happy 24/7, 365 days a year, but if they're, like that's how you're going to grow as a trucking company, even as a broker too. When you're sourcing the right carriers and you're out there and you're treating them well, they're your best sales force, because they're going to be, the way that they treat shippers and receivers is a direct reflection of how you source capacity. And if you want your capacity to grow, it's a great way to do it, So it's like, I think I'm just like, what's one of the biggest lessons that you've learned that you wish you would have known on day one?
Oh,
start with any of them, because there's probably a lot.
Like the number one thing is find a service out there, in which I haven't nailed one down yet, so I can't tell you where to go. But find a service out there, if there is one, and I think there are a few, that will keep you in total compliance for a fee every month. And not have to worry about it. Like, because that's the biggest thing is keeping up with what all is coming here and there. I mean, you've got everything hitting you right and left with taxes and fees and, drug testing and clearinghouse and, curies, all these things that you're, getting hit with right and left, that if you come in this not even knowing a thing like I did, like that's like my eyes were like peeled back.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the biggest thing is understanding if you're going to jump in it from the, I would suggest anybody jumping in that has time. I didn't really have time to kind of think about getting into it. It was kind of a presented, I needed to make a quick decision, or he was going to dissolve the company. And so mine was a little bit faster, but if you're going to think about getting into it, like go follow somebody for 6 months that you trust, that go follow their trucking company for 6 months, learn from them all the ins and outs, and then make an educated decision if you have the capital to do it. Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, just because you have the capital, don't just think you can go pour money on a trucking company and it's going to be successful.
Yeah. No, that's great advice, man. That is. It is learning from somebody who's doing it. I mean, just offer to work for free. I think that's the best way, is offer to work for free. Can I just watch, what is, like when you're talking about taxes and everything, I know IFTA is a big thing, like making sure that that's in line. What would you recommend for somebody out there for when it comes to their fuel tax and kind of tracking that across state lines and how they operate?
Yeah, I would have a great TMS that is following, tracking all that stuff for you. And there's, I don't know if I can drop names because of partners.
Yeah, no, as long as it's nothing disparaging.
No, it's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But Lynx is a great one out there.
Okay.
Josh, I think he's in the comments. He's a
Yeah.
great person. I don't know if he wants to put his contact in there, but he is a part of a great TMS system that is out there that does all that tracking for you, gives you the accounting, spreadsheets whenever you want to print reports out, things like that are tracking it for you. And if you can get it all inside of one system, it's better than having, you got one for your ELD, you got another for your TMS, all these different systems out there that you're trying to pull data from. It's better to have it all one together, I think.
No, definitely. I'd agree with that. I think a one-stop shop is always a lot better than having your drivers jump through 17 different hoops before they can even turn on the ignition for the day. We got just a couple minutes left here. I think that when it comes to what's one thing that you've experienced so far that you're kind of like, why does the industry operate this way? Why aren't they looking at it from a new angle?
So because there's so many independents in this industry, as far as owner operators, dispatchers, brokers aren't as saturated sometimes as dispatchers because anybody can just, do it from their house, things like that. But because there's so many different pieces to the puzzle of trucking, there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of holding back from information that people want to share. So that's why I loved, when Josh, which is the biggest, best networker in the world, put me in contact with you or you in contact with me, because as soon as I started figuring out what you were doing and giving, putting these on there and giving out this free content to educate the population in this industry, that's what we need. These people want to hoard it up or not give it out. Or you got these people out there on social media trying to sell it for $1,000 and they don't have anything. They don't even know anything about it.
Yeah, they don't even own a truck.
Yeah, they don't even own a truck. They don't even have a dispatching service, but they're going to tell you how to dispatch.
Yeah.
Just all the things like that it feels like the whole industry is working against each other instead of together. And what happens in that, and it's in any industry, I feel like, is the big players, the big corporations, have all the power at that point. You've given, even though you're bigger, if you all come together, you're bigger than them, but they have all the voice because they are together as one company and they're watching all you fight against each other.
Interesting. You're not the first person to say that, Andy. And that's what's, to me, that's what's so concerning. And I understand that there's not a kumbaya scenario where, oh, hey, we're all gonna, but I think there is a lot more to be gained by assisting each other in running a more profitable operation. And that's because that's what it boils down to, man. I want to see people that's my main driving force behind all my content. I want to preserve the American dream. All right. The American dream is to start your own company and to fucking provide for your family and, and be left alone, live your life the way that you want to live it. And I'm all for that. And that's the main driving force behind all of this stuff is I want to help individuals like yourself and anybody else out there know that at least the content that we're providing is factual and truthful. I'm not just bringing people on here for, and then my podcast as well, just to talk. These are people who are in the industry. They have multiple years experience in the industry who are telling you hey, this is what you should do if you own trucks, where, hey, you're going to be a broker. This is what you're going to be faced with, or, technology and everything else that's at your disposal. I want to help businesses be more profitable, and it's going to take hearing from individuals like you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to add one thing that hit me is there's so many people out there that have a lack set mentality. There's a lack of money. There's a lack of jobs. There's a lack of this. There's a lack of that instead of an abundance mindset. And that's what drives that mentality of hoard and not freely give and let it all flow together. And I think, I see it all the time. People have, I want to make all the money. It's dude, there's enough money in the freaking world to be made.
Dude, there's more money in this industry. There's more opportunity for everybody to be fat and happy. I just want to see the little guy, the small trucking companies, the individuals like yourself who are out there trying to build up something. I want to see you guys stay in business longer than 12 months. Like that 87% failure rate is pitiful to me.
Mhm.
Like how are we not out here? And, and again, I can't say that that's not happening. Again, I got to give a shout out to my man, Adam Wingfield. He's working with a lot of companies to help them stay in business and to do it the right way. And again, that's what I want to see more of, because it's like, as an industry, if we want our problems to be fixed, no outsider is going to come in and fix this. We have to provide this value to people. We have to provide this information for everybody to utilize, because it's like, man, that's what social media is all about. Like I don't need to charge anybody to sit here and tell them and to bring individuals like yourself and others on here to talk about the realities of like, why, like social media is free, like it's just one of those things, man. I appreciate it. I mean, we're up at our time. I appreciate you sharing your experience so far in business, and and that's what I'm looking forward to is bringing you back on in 12 months. You're like, yeah, we're up to 40 trucks now, or whatever that looks like, and stuff like that. How man, if there's anybody out there who might be going through a lot of what you're going through, how does anybody reach out to you, man?
So I'm gonna drop links in this stuff, but
Cool.
most people can go, they can look me up on Facebook, Andy Henry. I'm out of Knoxville area, so they can be able to put a face with this. I don't really want to put my phone number out there.
No, not at all. Not at all.
An email. I don't know if I could drop it in the chats. Does it stay in the chats? I don't know how this works.
It might, man. I'm not a tech guy, Andy, dude. I just have I'm just a mic. That's it.
But I could also give you like my email, and you could put it back in the post that you put up. You could post, and so I'll do that. They can email me. Cool. But hey, thanks for having a little guy like me here on. But yeah, watch out in the next 12 months. Things are. I've figured it out now. Not everything, but I'm about there, and
you have an idea. Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys all for tuning into this. Shout out to my sponsor, LoadAccept, Bitfreighter. Check them out. www.bitfreighter.com. Request that demo out there. They help keep the lights on. They help bring this content to you guys every single week. I appreciate them. I appreciate you guys all so much, and we'll be talking to you soon.